For the last, I would say 60 to 90 days, I've been telling a lot of investors that had their old school seller hat mentality that they need to change that mentality because the market's changing and it's going to change fast, which we've seen in the last 90 days.
What's up, deal makers? We just finished Ask Alex number 85, and we got to interview Moises Arroyo and Eric Cusimonio, our broker and realtors out here in the Los Angeles and Antelope Valleys. And Alex, what were your biggest takeaways, man? This was an incredible chat.
Well, this was a high-level chat about where the market was, where it is right now in July 2022, and then where it's headed and how to act as an investor and a buyer in real estate. Also as a seller, because we're both. So if you need to learn what to do right now in this very tricky time, check out this webinar. Let's go. Hello, what's up, my deal makers? Today's gonna be an amazing webinar. We're gonna be interviewing these top agents, Moises Arroyo and Eric Cusimonio. We've been working with these fine gentlemen for a couple of years now. And I mean, they are true experts of what they're doing. And I think that you guys are gonna get a lot of value from being able to ask them questions and also hear their insights about the current state of the market. I just went to the dentist, so I'm actually still a little bit sore right here. So if I look a little bit weird, forgive me, but I've got my veneers going and I'm down here in Mexico and I'm excited to get back down to LA next week. What's up, my co-host, Mr. Lowball Wall?
What's up, Mr. Camacho? Man, I'm excited for today. Like you mentioned, obviously we see you cheesing, you're smiling, but man, dude, this is going to be a cool call today because we're going to be going over the market shift, right? And like everybody wants to know, where's the market going? Where's the market heading? And we have two super qualified dudes on here, you know, guys that are selling a lot of properties for us on a regular basis. And if they're selling a lot for us, you know, that ultimately means they're selling a lot of properties in general, right? Because you know, we typically are working with A+ team members, and these guys are definitely A+ as it gets, right?
Absolutely. And what we're going to find is really they're going to describe the correction we're seeing and not necessarily describe a huge market crash, because that's not what we're seeing. We are seeing definitely a shift, but panicking is crashing. Sure, there's definitely some stuff to be concerned about, but you don't want to be emotional, but you want to be logical. What's going on right now? Now, what I love about both of these guys is, to add to what we were saying, is that they are representing buyers, sellers, and working with investors such as ourselves, and they're investing in real estate themselves. So
and
I would argue
investors themselves, right? So it's like the full spectrum, right? Not only are they working with these people, but they do it so they get it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would argue they have a read on the market even better than we do, and I want to selfishly interview them for that reason. So I think, again, the deal makers, everybody attending is going to be able to ask questions, see what they're saying, and I'm really excited to bring them in, because I think that we're gonna, you know, definitely learn some things, and then that'll help us take purposeful action going forward.
Well, good stuff, man. I know this is going to be a fun webinar. We'll dive in with these guys in a minute. Before we do, though, you know, give us a quick recap, Alex. Kind of what's going on with you, what's new in your world, and you know, what is expected from you. I know you said you're coming back to LA this week. Obviously, pretty excited about that. What's kind of on your horizon, man?
I think one big thing is that we've been really focusing as a team, and myself personally, on improving our habits right now. I think when there's a market upswing and things are all going in favor, we have the tendency to get a little bit lazy, right? We get the tendency of getting comfortable and not sticking to those things that have helped us get to that level. And so we've really gotten back to the basics as far as like our morning and evening routines. We had a great training sessions about that earlier today, which I got a lot of value from. I know the team got a lot of value from, and that was direct training and coaching from Ryan Pineda's recent coaching call. So we were able to kind of translate that call into action for all of us. So that's been great. I've got a lot more consistency going because our editing team and our social media team has really started to come together again. We had some people kind of leave the team and or, you know, move on to other types of opportunities for themselves. And so that has—
Your content's been fire lately, man. Like it's been good, bro.
Hey man, I'm just trying to step it up, man, because, you know, it's something that I like to do, and I think I have a lot to share. So, you know, it does match, but it is work because we have to put that in addition to all the other stuff I'm working on. So it can be challenging, but I've seen some more consistency with that. We've got already like 200 signups for our downtown LA live meetup. So if you guys haven't even heard of it, then you need to like check our social media, because we're going to be having a huge in-person free meetup next Thursday in downtown LA. So make sure you attend. It's free. It's gonna be free food. It's gonna be swag, all that. So looking forward to meeting you in person, whoever's gonna make it there. What else? Also, we've been raising some capital lately because some of our projects taking a little bit longer to close, more rehabs, things are getting more expensive with the, with the rehab. So we've had some great money partners kind of come on board in the last couple of weeks to help us get some of these projects over here to the finish line. In addition to, I think we're buying another one in the Antelope Valley, which is, we're getting a great deal on that one. Partnering with, not partnering, but we're getting a deal from somebody that we've been networking. Shout out to John Timones on that deal. And then what else? That's it, dude. Like, I'm ready to interview these guys. What's up with you?
Yeah,
I'm excited.
This should be a lot of fun. Guys, I am having a little bit of trouble chatting in right now, but Alex, if you don't mind making me a co-host real quick, what we're gonna do, guys, is we're gonna go ahead and bring on these panelists real quick, our co-hosts here for today. But in the meantime, I know one of our team members, Mikey's in the webinar. Mikey, if you don't mind just sharing the chat for the Facebook group or the link for the Facebook group. That way, anybody who has not signed up for the event, like Alex mentioned, I think we're at 100 and what was it, Alex? 188?
Close to 200. We're expecting
close to 200 signups. So obviously, we're going to have to cap that at a certain point here pretty soon, but we're excited for that event. That should be a lot of fun. And Mikey will go ahead and chat that here in a minute. And then in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and bring on our special guests.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit quickly about them. So
Yeah.
Moises Arroyo, I met him, I mean, no joke, I did the numbers there like 17 years ago, give or take, back in, during the mortgage business days. That's kind of gonna date me a little bit, but dude, this guy's just a savage. What I love about Moises is his execution is second to none. This guy just gets shit done. And you need people like that. Also, he's just very straightforward. So he helps us make decisions because he's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's going to tell it how it is. And he's always just helping us decide on things because there's a lot to decide on all these deals throughout the process of each one. So I think, that's a big for me. And then regarding Eric, I mean, this cat is just like the professionalism, him constantly like evolving. We met about 3 years ago, and where he was 3 years ago to where he is right now is like night and day. I mean, the kid is just like an all-star. So super happy to have him on. Anybody ever interested in anything in Antelope Valley, I mean, that's your guy right there. And then Moises helps us with everything in core Los Angeles. He covers all of that. So that's why we kind of combo up with these two all-stars. Is Moises not on yet?
Yeah, Mo was having a little bit of technical difficulties. He was on a second ago, but he said same thing with you. He just had a kind
What's up, Eric?
crash. But
Hold on, team.
You back from Paris or what? You good?
We're back. We're back to work. Back to the dirt.
That's right. That's right. How was your vacation, my man?
Man, much needed, man. I'm excited to get back to work though.
I know I've been pushing you to go to Maui. I've been pushing you to come to Aloha. You're just like going over to Europe. I'm like, all right, bro. I see you cool.
Yeah, it was last minute. I got an invite, and it was an opportunity. I've never been outside the country, so I wanted to make sure I kind of get a little more experience.
Awesome.
Travel some more.
Good to have you on. So I know we have 29 people on that are excited to hear about some of the stuff we're going to chat about. So why don't we kind of
I think the first thing we'll chat about while we're waiting for Mo is obviously, as you mentioned, right? Like Eric's our guy up in the Antelope Valley. Eric's, working with sellers, he's working with buyers, he's working on properties himself. He's working with other investors. Like this guy is very well plugged in up in the Antelope Valley. And, Alex, when we look at our books, like we did a lot of transactions up in the Antelope Valley this last year, and they were all profitable, right? Like we didn't really lose or come close to losing on any of our deals up there, right? It was a very
I think our worst deal that was 7th Street, that deal, everything that could go wrong went wrong on it, and we still made like $7,000. And there was multiple deals that we projected to make 60, 70 grand that made 6 figures. A part of that was the market, right? But I mean, I love the AV, baby.
Yeah, so let's have Eric kind of give us just a quick background. Eric, for you, obviously, where do you fit into the Antelope Valley? Like, how long have you been up there? How long have you been in the trenches up there working in real estate? And kind of give us a little bit of a screenshot of what this last year in the market, in the Antelope Valley market looked like.
Mm-hmm. Right. So in the Antelope Valley, I've been here about 25 years now, my whole life. I know it like the back of my hand. I was, been through different school zones, lived in different parts of the Antelope Valley. So I know the opposite side of the railroad tracks, the good neighborhoods, the bad neighborhoods. And really excited, man, because a lot of investors are bullish on this area because of the price ranges, because, you know, basically really just the price range. That's where it comes down to. We're the last ending part of LA County. So we're like right on the borderline. Antelope Valley, Roseman is still considered, but that's what separates us going into Kern County right there, that borderline right there. So
love it. And you mentioned the sides of the railroad tracks, the side of town. And like, Alex, we always talk about this, right? Like, this is one of your biggest strengths is, this market, the LA market, like the back of your hand, right? And I think that goes a long way in investing, because when those deals come around, you're certainly going to know when they hit you, right?
Absolutely. Knowing your market is critical to being successful as an agent or an investor, because you're either guiding people on the buy and sell side, or you're buying yourself, or whatever that may be. So so much of our deals have been secured because of the knowledge within the team. And you're starting, certain areas much better than I do, but also wanted to because the thing is, you were working with some top agents before, right, Eric? I mean, I know, just talk a little bit about your journey in real estate.
Right.
I know you grew up in the Antelope Valley, but let's talk a little bit about your journey in real estate so far, and how where you started and where you're at now.
right. So right out of high school, I was, going, community college out here, ABC, wanted to pursue the route, go to schools. What everyone was telling me to do was the safe route. And during that time, I was still pushing carts at Albertsons and, part-time, and going to school full-time. And I didn't have no one in real estate. I didn't know anyone in real estate. There was no family that I was like influenced by that did real estate. And actually, most of the realtors I knew were struggling, so like nothing really in me had a desire to become a realtor. But eventually, investing and so forth, being curious, I just started reaching out to people in my market. I came across a younger guy in our area. He's a top agent in the Antelope Valley. He sells the most amount of homes, just complete, savage, sharp. So I went and reached out to him a couple times. He interviewed me, told me, gave me some assignments, and, just kept brushing me off. And eventually I was like, look, I'm gonna come work for you for free. And he did. He let me work for free. And then he was like, hey, you're working harder than the people I'm paying salary. Why don't you quit Albertsons and come work for me full time? And so I did. As soon as he gave me the opportunity, I quit Albertsons. I stopped going to school. I put it more so part-time. And then, in that process, my first year, we sold 150 homes, him and I, just working hand in hand, going on every listing appointment, every buyer's consultation. And so there's a lot of experience that first year, just being hands-on in the transactions, even if I did a lot of his grunt work.
Yeah, I love it, because I remember when we met, you were talking about that, and he was like, that struggle of working for somebody, helping them make a lot of money, but then at the same time, you're getting this super valuable experience. And I mean, it's similar to my journey, right? Like working for other people, seeing the ins and outs. And yeah, continue.
No, that conversation we had was literally down the street from my office right here by the Antelope Valley Mall, and I will never forget it, because I was like, man, I'm bringing so much value to the table. I'm producing on a high level. I'm ready to start my own business. And you were like, no, look, read this book first, and then after you read this book, you let me know if you're ready. And because of that conversation, I did read that book. It was Mastery by Robert Greene. One of those.
Yeah, Robert Greene. Yeah.
Robert Greene. And I read that book, and I was like, you know what? I still have to put in my time, right? So I gave it a little bit more time, and we set up a game plan. I started highlighting the pros and cons, just everything that book talked about. But it really kind of set me up, because if I would have left too early, I would have went nowhere.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think once you have a certain amount of knowledge, you feel like, oh, I could go do this on my own, I'm ready to go. But it's like, yo, you really don't know the game that well yet. It's like, come on, man. And Kobe didn't become Kobe in a couple of years, right?
Exactly. Don't let the ego get in the way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, hey, man,
you gotta earn your stripes, right? And
I don't think he's ever told me that, though. I'm so glad that you got that book, because that's a big part of like my journey too.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
But I love that we talked about that, right? Earning your stripes, it's a big part of it, right? And we got our guy Moises Arroyo on here. Obviously, you know, a man who has earned his stripes. Well, unfortunately, he's earned his stars. He's a Dallas Cowboy fan, no Bengal fan over there. But you know, this guy, you know, same thing as Eric, just an absolute monster. Like Alex said when we introduced him, the guy is an investor. He's a broker. He's a mortgage lender. He's an investor himself. He works with other investors. He helps regular buyers. Like, dude, the dude's all over the place. And, you know, we're excited to have him on here. So Mo, we were just kind of, you know, looking for a little bit of insight from you on, like, you know, Eric was telling us where the market's been in Antelope Valley. And obviously, you know, LA is a big market, but you've done deals for us in La Quinta, in Compton, in the Valley. You're all over the place. So what's your take on where the market here in LA has been in the past year or so? There we go.
Sorry guys. I think the LA market right now is seeing some type of a correction. For the last, I would say 60 to 90 days, I've been telling a lot of investors that had their old school seller hat mentality that they need to change that mentality because the market's changing and it's going to change fast, which we've seen in the last 90 days. I think most of the property values are going down anywhere between 5 to 10%. And once you start hitting that $1.5, $2 million sales price, you're starting to see even higher price reductions. For example, we have a property in Simi Valley that we listed originally at $1,425,000, even though there was a comparable 3 houses over in the same gated community in Simi Valley that sold for 1.6. That house, fast forward 45 days later, it's still sitting on the market, and we reduced it 100,000 with 0 offers. So I think where you're going to see the biggest hit is your high-end market, with people coming in with low-ball offers. And now the buyer's mentality has turned into, well, if I'm paying a higher interest rate, I'm going to want to get a deal on the property that I'm going to purchase. As far as the desert cities and the desert all over, because of the rates going so high and because Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae has changed their guidelines to treat second homes as investment properties, you're seeing a lot of these houses lose value fast because now the interest rate on a second home is a lot higher than what it was last year around this time. Now you're seeing the interest rate on a second home, you know, closer to 7%, like an investment property.
So obviously, you know, like inventory gets fluctuated by a lot of things, right? It's not just the first time home buyers, but, you know, when there's, you know, good pricing and good interest rates, and experienced buyers are also able to take advantage of that. So that, you know, certainly can affect it. Would you agree there, Alex?
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, we're constantly talking to Moises, we're constantly talking to Eric, you know, asking what they're seeing, what their, you know, what their experience is. That's one of the reasons I think I forgot to mention that, just, you know, with Mo, his vast amount of experience from all sides of the transaction just continue to be valuable. But I don't think we got a chance to really like give a quick little 2-minute, how did you get your start, Moises? And, you know, I know it's a long one, so we'll try to condense it down, but.
So I'll short, sweet, and simple. I started this in 2003, just doing lending. The market crashed in close to the end of 2007, 2008. You started seeing the market change, and real fast. Not like this. It was probably night and day, where you walked into the office, and I'm sure you remember this, Alex, where, hey, New Century Lending imploded, WC Mortgage imploded. So you just started seeing a domino effect. Even you had files, you know, that you had already signed, ready to close, and you're thinking you're getting that paycheck. Well, guess what? They closed their bank. They lost their line of credit. So weathering that storm taught me a lot of valuable lessons. You know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't wait for things to get better. You need to be proactive and get ahead of the curve. So then I got into getting into real estate, finding investors flips. And that's how I was able to bring additional revenue to try to, you know, wait for the market to correct itself. And after that, I finished my master's at Pepperdine, and I went and got my broker's license. I didn't even have a real estate license. I just went to take the broker's license because of the degree I had.
Then what? And then when did you start investing? I know you've been back.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Obviously, you put an investor hat on sometime too, right?
Yeah, when I started working with guys that did flips, older guys that had old money and had seen this before. All I was doing, literally, I was sat behind a desk desk with my old partner, and she would just send me properties to write up offers. I mean, from 9 in the morning to 7 o'clock at night, I was just submitting offers, going on Fannie Mae's website and submitting offers through their home path, trying to get offers accepted. And it was just a numbers game. After that, that investor started getting cautious because they built a heavy portfolio of about 75 properties that we helped them get. And he started redeveloping all those properties that had zoning to build additional units like R3, R2. And once he slowed down in buying, that's when I kind of like 2014, 2015, I just started dabbling into getting one property here, one property there, because I was busy with my regular buyers that were buying, you know, owner occupied properties and investment properties. And then I still had the mortgage company going.
Awesome. So again, you guys, this is what the type of people you need to work with if you're a newer investor, because Moises and people like him, which, I mean, there's not that many out there, but they can teach you stuff, and then their experience, they've been there before. So, you know, that's why I know I've been there, you know, I've been in the mortgage real estate game for a while now, pretty much 15, 20 years, but you just can't replace that experience, those reps, all the times that they've been in tough negotiations that they can, you know, help you out with during your transaction. So good stuff, Mo. But thanks for coming on. What do we want to ask?
Yeah, no, I think this is great conversation. And guys, I just wanted to let you know the chat feature is now working. So we'd love for you guys to just kind of chat in just so that we can get an idea of what market you guys are investing in. Let us know what your Instagram handle is as well. And, you know, let us know your name just so we can stay connected as well. But guys, I want to kind of talk, we talked a little bit, Moises, you kind of got into where the market's heading right now. Eric, what are your thoughts on the outlook for the market right now in Antelope Valley? Are you seeing kind of the same thing that Mo is seeing, like a stabilization? Are you seeing the same kind of thing out there?
Right. Just to piggyback off what Mo was saying, in any market too, I'm pretty sure it's the luxury end that kind of gets hit first. The higher end homes, higher price ranges. Out here in the Antelope Valley, the average price point is around 450,000. So, you know, anything above 600,000, you're kind of tapping into what would be our luxury market out here. And just throughout history, like what we noticed, you know, I haven't been in the game that long, but just from learning from others, is we're at the end of LA County, and the Antelope Valley kind of sets the tone to what's going to happen closer towards LA. So once we start seeing price reductions out here, it starts out here first, and it kind of works its way towards, you know, the middle metropolitan cities and the bigger cities. So we're really feeling the correction out here big time, especially on those higher end price ranges. So,
gotcha.
And I know Mo is seeing the same thing on the high end price points out here. You know, like you said, just big price drops. Alex, we just did a pretty dramatic price drop on one of our high end deals out on the islands, right?
Yeah, you know, we're also greedy sellers.
Mm-hmm. Stop for the stars, right?
I try to get $2.8 million for my Maui house. I don't want to let it go. It's a special property, but we reduced it by $200,000 to $2.6 million. I mean, we always had the number on our head, like, hey, if we don't get 2.5, like, we're not selling this bad boy. Well, they came in a cash offer of 2.2 million with the 1031 money. We're still negotiating with that offer. We countered them at 2.6. They came up to 2.4. I don't know. We might be able to meet in the middle, but they do have to sell some properties that are in escrow right now. So we're working on figuring out where this might be the right buyer, but we'll see.
And before, Alex, in this market, you would have never entertained this, right? You would have never been like, hey, I'm going to give a concession. I'm going to wait for a 1031 exchange. Like, you know, when the money was cheap, when the interest rates were low, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, and we've also started to give credits on some wire deals to some of these retail buyers. We've entertained reducing prices on some of the, like even the Hawaii house, the other one in the Big Island, which is more of an entry level price point, but it's fallen out of escrow a couple of times now with this damn roof situation that we thought it wasn't really an issue, but I guess it is. So yeah, it means there's definitely that shift in mindset. But let's talk about opportunity then, because as this market shifts, Moises, Eric, whoever wants to jump in first, like, what do you see as the opportunities, whether that be from the retail side, a retail buyer trying to buy a property now, or an investor? What would you say?
I'll take that one. I think right now, from a seller standpoint, like in your situation, I think you need to work, once you get a property in escrow, do everything you can to try to make that transaction work. to get it to the finish line. Now, you're still going to have that unrealistic buyer that's going to ask for a house built in 1929 to ask for you to credit them $50,000. Well, at that point, you laugh. You just cut your loss, cut the transaction right away. But if you have a buyer that comes in and says, hey, the house really needs a new roof, and it's something that you knew might come up, then you work with that. Hey, send me a bid. I'll get my own bid. The roof's still not leaking, but it's at the end of its life. So why don't we meet in the middle? If it's going to cost, $12,000-$15,000, let's meet in the middle, and I'll give you $7,500 credit, so that 2 years from now, 5 years from now, when you need to replace the roof, you at least got a credit from me. Because what's happening right now, a lot of the sellers still have that greedy mentality where they're going to be like, hey, well, no, we'll put it back on the market and we'll get another offer. Well, I mean, case in point on Compton, we thought buyers, we had multiple offers, FHA. Unfortunately, in that situation, we couldn't take FHA buyers. So then we had to wait. And, once we hit the 90 days, we had more offers coming on the table. But I mean, in those situations, from a seller standpoint, I would tell you to try to keep the deal together as much as you can. You got to rely heavily on the agent you're using or the brokerage you're using. Because if it's somebody that hasn't really gone through multiple scenarios that's selling a lot of units a year, then that's where you're going to run into problems, because it's going to be the first time they've faced that situation. And they've only seen an upward market. They haven't gone through the market where it's correcting itself and coming back down. Mm-hmm. So that's where it's important to have somebody that has been through that and has been through that market cycle, so that they're able to guide you and get the file to the finish line. Or just be able to tell you, hey, this guy's a jokester, let's just cancel escrow and put it back in the market. Because if we try to negotiate, we're just wasting time.
Yeah, and that really is what I think is super valuable, the time that you save by not falling in an escrow and then getting deals to the finish line and then moving that capital to the next deal or to the next investment. Right? Yeah,
I mean, and every dollar, if you're playing in hard money interest rates. So if you have private money loan, every day counts, because you're losing $300, $400, $500 a month. Like, I always keep that in the back of my mind for my investors. Like, hey, we're losing money every day. This property, we've tied up this escrow trying to make this guy happy. And at the end of the day, it's not going to get to the finish line. But if we know that, the agent's working well together with the listing agent, and we can make that work to get it to the finish line successfully, then absolutely, you try to keep the deal together. From a buyer standpoint, I think that you now have from a traditional first-time home buyer, now you have a great opportunity to use down payment assistance programs, because now these houses don't have 50 offers, 20 offers. Now they might not even have an offer, and you might be able to get a $30,000, $20,000 discount on it, and also apply for a down payment assistance program. You're going to get a lot of offers. I know it's common in like Palmdale, Antelope Valley, where you would submit your offer requesting closing cost credit. Even in a hot market, that was a common practice in the desert. In LA, sellers would laugh at you. So now you're able to submit your offer with, hey, let me get 3% for closing cost credit or 2% for closing cost credit. So I think for your regular buyer, there's a lot of opportunity to get flexibility on the price, or get credits for repairs, or get credits for closing costs, or both.
And what about up in the Antelope Valley, Eric? I know, obviously, you mentioned, right, the median home price up there is now in the 4s. And obviously, 10 years ago, that was in the mid 2s somewhere, right? So home prices have gone up there in the Valley. Are there still opportunities for buyers up there?
Absolutely. Yeah, buyers, like what Mo was saying, they have a lot more opportunity to get closing costs paid, even just a lot more options. The neighbor down the street selling their house now, a lot more inventory, so they could kind of, the options are in their table now. They're even showing, constantly in the field every day, showing buyers properties. They're a lot more picky now, because they do have those options. So
yeah, I know we talked about this before, at the beginning, and I've only been investing in real estate for a year and a half, right? So, I've only really known this first market, conditions that I've been a part of. But, it seems like if your property is not really dialed in right now, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but like buyers are going to call you out on it, right? Like it's not going to pass. It's they'd rather wait for another property that is dialed in.
Yeah, that's a good point. But also, I think it does come down to making sure, if you guys are buying a flip and moving forward, really do your due diligence on the front end to make sure, all those problems, you get ahead of them, because you know that now the end buyer that you're going to sell it to is going to call out all those small things that's wrong with the property, that before you can get away with, hey, well, that's how we bought the house, we didn't do nothing to the electrical. Well, those are things that you guys got to keep in the back of your mind that might come bite you in the rear end when you're trying to get out of the deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
That buyer is going to get that inspection report. That inspector is going to let them know the wiring is not
Correct.
rewired, and it's going to be like, hey man, like you didn't do this all the way through. I want a credit. I want a 10K credit for that.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, being that Moises, you're also heavy on the lending side of things, can you shed any light to the attendees of what you're seeing in as far as financing options for purchasing properties on both the retail side and the investor side?
Yeah. So a lot of the programs right now, because interest rates are so high, there's a lot of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac is beta testing different programs where they're trying to bring in like a 40-year fix. But these programs have previously been beta tested and they haven't been lucrative, or they haven't really followed through with them. They'll pull them back. So then a lot of lenders will say, hey, guess what? We have a 40-year mortgage now. But then they see that it's not bringing the return on investment for them. So then they pull it back. So right now, like there's a lot of beta programs like a 40-year mortgage. They haven't really, they're giving higher margins, higher interest rate than a 30-year fix. So if on a 30-year fix, you can get a 5%, let's say, then on a 40-year mortgage, you would get a 5.75. At that point, whatever lender you're working with, you got to really assess, does it make sense to get a 40-year mortgage to save $200 a month? But then on the long term, it doesn't make sense to go in a 40-year mortgage, because now you're paying, not double in interest, you're paying maybe 150% more in interest over the life of the loan. As far as down payment assistance programs, those are really hot right now, just because now all those buyers that didn't have the funds to be able to do their down payment assistance programs, because they were getting outbid from cash buyers, from people doing 20% down. And, a lot of realtors, I would say a good amount of realtors, brokers aren't versed in lending. So they don't understand that, hey, vetting a down payment assistance program is just as good and might give you a higher return on your flip, because they're willing to offer top dollars so you could take their offer. But that's where you got to rely on the realtor to say, hey, and most of them don't know, like, hey, let me look at the 1003, let me look at the credit report, let me look at the DU findings. Whereas if they're short, if they're not able to qualify for this program, or do they have the money to do an FHA purchase? So those are the things that, your broker and realtor need to know, like, hey, how do we get it dialed in? Because most realtors are going to be like, hey, this is my preferred lender, Bob, give him a call and let him cross qualify. And that guy doesn't give a shit. So he's just going to look at the deal and say, hey, yeah, it looks good. But that's where you got to thoroughly vet the down payment assistance program for the seller standpoint. And I think it's a huge opportunity for buyers to be able to get into a house, because I guarantee you most of them fell out just because they would go see houses, get their hopes up, and get outbid. And, that's discouraging for the last 4 or 5 years, where they just keep getting
buyer fatigue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, dude, I love the conversation. Is there something else that we have in the chat?
Well, I was going to say, we got some questions coming in, and guys, if you do have some questions, go ahead and throw those in over there on the Q&A, and we'll make sure we get to these questions over here. It's more of comments. People kind of, I see people agreeing with you, Mo, saying you're hitting some key points there on those 40-year loans. Some of those things are definitely some products that people here in the chat are saying that they're seeing kind of coming back. So Eric, let's talk more about, because we have a lot of investors here on the call, right? So what happens if I'm an investor and I'm sitting here and I have a property listed, and all of a sudden the market is shifting on me? Like, what are some options? What can I do in times like this?
So like, if the property wouldn't sell, is what you're
saying?
saying?
The property's not selling, like we're just not getting any traction. Like, what are some things that I can do as an investor to kind of, protect myself in those instances?
Really, it's all in the preparation, like how you vet the deal. So, I mean, things that happen after, if property's not selling, you could possibly look into, in the Antelope Valley, it makes a lot more sense to rent these properties that kind of a little bit closer to the 1% rule compared to buying $1 million house in LA, you can't rent that out for $10,000 a month. So that's the reason why a lot of investors, even big time investors that invest in multifamily out here, they like the Antelope Valley because you could see those 1% returns, buy a property 300,000 and get close to $3,000 in rent. That's an option. Is obviously going back to the table and see if how this would look like if we were to rent it, maybe refinance, pull some of our cash back out. But other than that,
I know we hear a lot of the Airbnb model. Mo, are you guys
the
down here in LA hearing the fallback into an Airbnb as an exit strategy?
Yeah, so there's a couple things you could do on the exit strategy. Well, obviously, one is what he just noted, that you turn it into a rental. That's great. But one of the things is the preparation. I think the front end, what you have to do for the investors watching, is that you got to work on that exit strategy now, right?
Right.
We don't wait till it's sitting on the market for 45 days and you're panicking and you're like, hey, I need to sell this house. I think right now it's more important to vet the deal right when you're going to list, or even during the time of construction. If you're in the middle of construction, okay, guys, we have this project. It's going to go on the market next week, a month from now, however long this project's going to take. We need to think about an exit strategy, because what if the market continues declining? So one, most of these loans that these investors are getting, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alex and Will, are hard money loans.
Correct.
We all know that the hard money loan is 1 year, 2 years, a year and a half. That's the max.
Yeah, usually like
12
12 to 24 month bridge loans, right?
So if you're going to turn it into a rental and your note is due 6 months from now or a year from now, well, then what are you going to do if you need to pay it in full? And I don't think anybody has that money in the bank, readily available to pay off that note. So that's where you got it. For the investors watching, start talking to a lender. Say, hey, I got this property. I'm going to finish it in 6 months. Give yourself a timeline. Say, hey, I'm going to give this property 30 days on the market or 45 days in the market. If not, I got to proactively start looking for a permanent strategy and start looking into financing. So right now, I have a lot of the guys you guys work with and know and do these meetups with. I try to help out to get into permanent loans. So there's different programs for lending where you could convert that hard money loan into a 30-year fixed. The rates are not as, they're better than hard money, but they're not as pretty as your conventional loan. They're about 1% to 2% higher. But now you have that asset on a fixed, 30-year fixed, and you can now turn it into an investment property. You could turn it into Airbnb. You could turn it into, if the property's in LA, there's a housing program where you could rent the rooms out. And right now that program's giving $1,151 per door. So if you have a 4-bedroom house, you could collect potentially $3,500 plus a month. And they give you an additional incentive of up to $15,000 to help tenants that have lost housing or don't have housing to get into these properties, if it's something that you're trying to maximize the profit from that house.
Yeah, I think one big point that I want to highlight what he said is that you need to set up your long-term financing. We're struggling a little bit on a couple of properties where we're like, hey, we wanted to keep these properties, but based on the market where it's at and the increase in rates and all that, not as likely to keep it anymore, or it's going to be not as great of a deal that we originally expected. So now we're deciding, like, do we still keep this average deal as far as cash flow are concerned on that particular deal, or do we just go ahead and sell it and make a small profit and move on to the next one? So these are decisions we're having to make because we don't have as much of that long-term financing available on some of these properties because of the how much equity is still in them, and that's kind of changing. So I've been telling the team a lot about the fighting with facts and how making more offers now is going to be something that they have to get used to because we have to get a bigger discount. So that's likely meaning we're going to have to look at more properties, more deals. And well, hey guys, there's more inventory now too to look at. So you're gonna have to go through more. It is a numbers game. But now you can talk to the agent, the wholesaler, the homeowner and say, hey, market is declining. You could see it. Hey, it's costing us more because of inflation to rehab these properties. Hey, I have to pay more money as an investor for either I have to get a better return on my cash or I have to get an expensive hard money loan that's going up. That's gonna make it higher for me. So there's all this more risk. So I need a better deal to offset all that additional risk. And these are the conversations that, sometimes you got to educate, these homeowners, these wholesalers, these agents, because they've only seen an up market as well, or they're still in that greedy seller mentality. So I see the opportunity from the acquisitions buyer standpoint, but it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It just means that like the opportunity now is that you are more in the driver's seat as a buyer, as an investor in that side than you were 2 months ago, where it was, much easier to, to get the financing to, XYZ, right? So I think that's what we've been seeing.
To touch on that note, Alex, I think that the financing part of it and some of the follow-up questions that you'll probably get from people is that, well, how do I qualify? Because a lot of people, they have their 9-to-5 job and they're doing flipping on the side, or they're invested on a deal. I think a lot of people are right now, the programs that are available to put on a 30-year fix, they're really stated programs, or if you have your business, it's a bank statement program. And all these programs allow you to pay off the hard money loan. And if there's enough equity, you can also pull cash back for you guys to put your money that you invested in the deal. So if you got, $50,000, $60,000 wrapped up in the deal, you'll be able to pull that money out.
Good stuff, man. I want to kind of shift the focus, because I know we have a lot of newer investors in here, newer real estate agents. Tell us, Eric, like if I'm a new real estate agent and I'm coming into this market, like what are some of the biggest things that I need to be aware of to make sure that I can, have a good, successful run here in this market?
What I see going in the future is a lot of newer agents that will be joining teams, just be around seasoned people like Mo that been in transactions that can help navigate these shifts. Just because everyone's an expert, when the market's really good, everyone's making money. But there's going to be definitely a shift, and we're already seeing that. So be around somebody that, my advice would be around somebody that has navigated it before. So that way you kind of adapt and pivot to that shift.
Yeah, we talked about that, right? Like having that veteran negotiator, somebody in your corner, that has been through these situations before, has been through, the market, things like that. Mo, I'll ask the same question to you, because again, you have the experience on both the lending side, running a successful mortgage business back before the initial crash. If I'm a new agent and I'm coming into this market, what are the biggest, two things that you would say that I would need to know?
I think right now key is getting a mentor and humble your ass down. Just because you close your cousin's deal in your first month of having your license and you made a quick $10,000 commission check doesn't make you an expert. Just because you read all these books and follow all these podcasts doesn't make you an expert. So I think it's important that you join.
Mo's the expert of tough love. You want some tough love, DM Mo.
Humble down, pay your dues, and it's okay not to know. A lot of people think I need to be an expert, I'm 41. So even to this day, there'd be a lot of questions that I might even be asking a guy that just got started, but he's had a situation that he told me about. And I'll be like, hey, I haven't had this happen before. What did you do? How did you work through it? I don't pretend I know everything. It's just a matter of humbling down and being okay to say, hey, can you help me out? Can you help me get creative on this transaction? Hey, can we collaborate on this deal? Because it's not a matter of to me, I don't chase paychecks. It's always about like, hey, there's always, if I might not make money on this deal, but I'll make money on 10 other deals. But this deal was a learning experience. So this one's more valuable to me. So I think most importantly to new agents, I think they just got to learn from somebody that's seasoned. It doesn't necessarily mean because that agent closes 150 transactions a year, you're going to learn from them. It might be a smaller team where they're not closing a lot of transactions, but that agent is seasoned and has seen a lot of these situations. I think opportunities for new agents right now is cold calling expired listings. I don't do any cold calling. I don't do any marketing. Alex knows this. My business is 100% referral. But as far as new agents, I think they could find a lot of opportunities in listings that have been canceled because sellers have that greed mentality and they think that, hey, you're not the right agent. I'm going to get more money. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the next year or so where a lot of these sellers think that they're going to get more deal. And I think there's opportunity for new agents to be able to get those listings. But you got to polish up your scripts. You got to, work with somebody that has the script system in place to be able to get canceled listings or expired listings, marketing so you could cold call on them or even door knock.
Now, being able to handle those objections or be critical because we're going to see more objections coming in the future. And especially like if you could get out there and just be that voice of like just opportunities to just voice everything that's going on out there, because the media right now, they're just portraying a lot of bad stuff out there that's just having everyone on hold. So if you could get out there and share the opportunities that, like during COVID, everyone was scared, no one was buying. We have an investor that we work closely with on here that was buying a lot during that time, and he capitalized big time. You know, he bought an apartment building, discounted, and a year later, because everyone was scared during that pandemic, he capitalized on it and sold it a year later for double the price.
Shout out to Paulie. What's up, Paul? I know you're on the call, my dude.
Yeah.
You're a big
No,
baby.
and I love that mindset, right, guys? So real quick, I just want to launch a poll out, real quick here to all of our attendees, just to get a quick idea. Obviously, you guys have heard from Mo, you've heard from Eric, you've heard from Alex, a couple of incredible experts here in the field. Like, where are you guys at with the market? Like, what do you guys think is going on? Do you guys think it's crashing? Do you think it's growing? Do you think it's stabilizing? Like, where are you guys at on this market shift? And then real quick, I just want to kind of, shift the question because, Alex, we've talked about this before. Obviously, like, you want to polish your skills. Both Mo and Eric mentioned finding a mentor. We've talked about it right now. Like, if you can polish your skills and like really crush it on a method of acquisitions, whether it's foreclosures, what those things that are going to be coming, there's opportunity out there, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they're calling like a great reset, or you hear these terms from the media and whatnot, because it was really inflated with all the money printing and all that. So in the scenario, say, for example, where things kind of really correct over these next 6 months, but then a lot of people get out of the game, and then you polish your skills and stay in the game. And even for us, it's like, hey, we're not desperate to buy. Yeah, sure, we'd love to buy deals, but we're more interested in getting our inventory to market, getting that profit, unlocking that capital, and then recapitalizing, making sure we're ready to go on opportunities we see. And if the Fed does end up attacking inflation, and then the rates they decline again in 6 to 8 months, which some people are saying might be possible, or something within that time frame, within a year, then you're being in a good position to kind of take advantage and still in the game where other people are going to be getting out. So I'm seeing that as well, where a lot of people are scared, and they're going to make bad decisions when they're scared, and that's going to be kind of good for other people that are going to stay sound and follow principles and also what's worked, and then alongside other people that have kind of been there, done that. So I'm excited, actually.
I'm excited too. So we talked about if you're a newer realtor in this market, guys. What about to close us out here? We'll start with you, Eric. If I'm a new investor in this market, same question as with the real estate agent. If I'm a new realtor, new real estate agent in this market, if I'm a new investor in this market, what are one or two of the most important things that you would say going into this new market in this next year, would be important to be successful?
Man, that's a tough question to wrap in. So you're asking, as a new investor, what are the 2 things you need to focus on?
Yeah, because we have a lot of newer investors on the call, right? Like, not everybody's done 10, 20 deals. We've got some people.
Well, yeah, I think the question was really like, what recommendations do you have, Eric, for people that get started investing? Say you had a new investor approach you to buy a property or to invest in his first flip in Antelope Valley. What would you recommend to him?
Right. Really just dial in your numbers, ask questions, get different opinions from other realtors or people as far as like ARV. And a lot of times, don't listen to everybody too. You can't listen to everybody. I remember my first flip, a couple of people that I trusted told me not to buy it, and it ended up working out. So you can't always take everyone's advice. Sometimes you have to stick to the numbers and block out the noise. But it wouldn't hurt, getting a couple of different opinions and just really dialing down your numbers, just second opinions on, rehab and just your ARV. So.
Or what about you, Mo? What do you recommend?
One, I think collaboration. I think that, if you're a new investor, you could read all the books you want. You could talk to 100 realtors. You could talk to 100 people that are doing it. But I think, it goes back to being a new realtor, right? I think a lot of it is collaboration. I think if you can't tackle the deal or you have a deal, don't be greedy. Just say, hey, look for an investor, interview a couple investors that do actively do flips. Don't be scared to ask questions. I mean, a lot of these guys go on social media and say, oh, I'm doing all these flips. Let me see receipts. How many deals have you done? Oh, you sold this property? Let's send me a list of the last 10 properties you did. Okay, let's look up those properties and see if you really did those flips, right? Do your own research, but also if you're a new investor, to collaborate with another seasoned investor and find the right partner that you work with.
Right.
I think that
More is not always better too. You know, just because they're doing more flips doesn't mean like what's the net on those flips. You know, you could be doing work with an investor that does a couple deals and they're netting more money and compared to this guy doing just high volume, you know. So
yeah, and it doesn't matter whether it's a house in Palmdale for 400,000 or a house in the Palisades for 1.82 million dollars. Sometimes once you see all the numbers at the end of the day, they might be making the same profit margin. And I can tell you this firsthand from multiple people I personally know, where they're making 80K on a 1.8 million dollar deal when you could have made 60K on a $400,000 investment. That's one thing. I think also if you're going to put your own money in the game to invest and partner up, I think that you better be mentally prepared that you might have to hold on to that property and go on the long run with the investor, whether you do it by yourself or whether you partner up with somebody. Be open to that idea, because if it does continue, and I personally think that we're still going to see rates going up, which is going to get more downward pressure on the market. I don't think it's crashing. That's a whole nother conversation that I know why it's not going to crash, just going through the '08 crash. But other than that, those are the two key elements I would find. Just be mentally prepared to hold on to the asset with the investor, or if you're doing it by yourself and have an exit strategy, or partner up with somebody that, hey, there's enough margin on this deal where right now, even if the market's declining 5% more, we're still going to make money. And I think when you're vetting deals as an investor, you got to really make sure that your numbers are more dialed in so that the margin of loss is also factored in, versus before it was like, hey, this last comp sold for 600,000, we can push it to 620. Now it's more like, hey, can we sell it at 575 and still make money on the deal?
yeah, that's fine.
Love that. And Alex, we were talking about that last week on the deal review, right? Going into our numbers and how we're kind of analyzing deals a little bit more, securely, right? Being a little bit more cautious, a little more, making sure that we're protecting ourselves. So I love that. I just want to open it up real quick for any kind of closing thoughts. Real quick, Alex, obviously really excited to have, gotten a chance to talk with both our guys that are out here in the trenches, working with our properties, working with our listings. Any kind of final thoughts from you real quick, Alex, and then we'll pass it over to these guys.
Yeah, sure. So my closing thoughts is, don't be afraid to invest if the numbers are right. But right now you have to be ultra conservative. That's just what it is. So if the deal is not an amazing deal, don't buy it. I also think there's some opportunities in the house hacking strategy right now, because before people getting outbid for stuff and there was multiple offers. Well, now, I've always been a big fan of that. I've said that before, that if I could go back, I'd buy the biggest, best fourplex I could find in Studio City or Sherman Oaks. And I would, put minimum down payment of that, back then. And I still say that now. You could do that. That might be a great opportunity to weather a storm like this, right? You buy a fourplex, you buy something that you could live in and kind of just use as an investment, get the training wheels on as an investor landlord. And then also with rents, generally increasing or doing well during recessions. These are all things that can be good if you do want to invest and maybe just sit on the sidelines, buy something like that. And then I've said it before, but I'll repeat it, that I think in these type of environments, you need to be prepared to work like twice as hard to make half the money. And if you're not willing to do that, then don't get in the game, because you're gonna have to send a lot more offers. You're gonna have to get a lot more no's, but that one yes is gonna be potentially a home run. So just treat it that way, have that mindset. And then I'll echo a little bit off Mo, which is, we built this community, this weekly webinar, our Facebook group, our regular meetups. Why? Because we don't have it all figured out. We're still asking questions. I still need help. We can't do this all by ourselves. These studs right here help us do what we do. I don't want to be them because they're great at what they do. So I let them be great at what they do, and I just work on being great at what I'm good at, right? And so I think it's really understanding what you're great at, and so that way you can double down on that, and because it's easier to build off of greatness, off of stuff that you're already naturally talented at, than to be trying to work on something that you're not good at, and then just plug in people around you for those things that you're not great at, and then that way we can survive and thrive during this this pretty stiff shift that we're seeing right now.
Good stuff, man. Alex, if you make me the co-host here, we'll go ahead and get some people on here and share some screen time with everybody else as we close off with our, incredible special guest here. Eric, I'll pass it over to you real quick. Kind of closing thoughts on the market. Again, anything on that. We do appreciate your time and all your insight today, man.
No, I'm really, really grateful to be on here. Thank you guys again for having me. But just to piggyback on what Alex said, I really liked, and it kind of answers your last question you had for me, Will. For the new investors, figure out what your strong suit is, like what's your role on the team. As the point guard, I'm not going to be trying to go down and get rebounds for the team. That's not going to help us out. I'm sure. I'm 5'9", right? So same thing. If I could put the sweat equity in to do these rehabs, I got my numbers dialed in, that's my role. I could go into these projects and put the sweat equity in. If I'm like Will and Alex, I never lifted a hammer before, then I'm not going to go in there and try to do that, or I'm basically going to hire it out and have people stick to their role, what they're good at.
Love it.
Great stuff, man. We'll talk about it, right? Double down on a skill. When the times get tough, like go with what you're good at, right? Don't go outside of your box. So
Exactly.
same thing to you. Like how would you like to kind of close this out here, man?
I think right now, touching to everybody, investors, just be cautious, run your numbers correctly, partner up with people. A fast nickel is better than a slow dime. For the buyers, first-time home buyers, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for you to finally get into a house, doing down payment assistance programs, not being scared to ask for credits. If your agent's telling you, no, we can't ask for credits, even if the house is in good shape, you can always find something wrong with the house. You could always say, hey, well, we feel the area neighborhood is scary. I want to put a fence up. We're asking for a credit to be able to put a security fence up. Ask for credits. Most agents, if they're just trying to slam the deal and tell you they can't, you can absolutely always ask for stuff. As far as long-term holds, I think that, you guys can always hit me up, get my info from Alex or Will if you want to know about financing or anything like that. And always be prepared to hold these deals. If you can't get out of them, turn them into long-term profit vehicles.
Good stuff, man. Anybody on the call, any last feedback, any last questions? Again, these guys are doing the deals themselves. They're helping other investors with their deals. They're helping other buyers get into deals. In Mo's case, he's helping people, qualify for loans. Mo's helping me with my loan on my personal property. So any last feedback or any questions for these guys before we call it a day here? Again, appreciate both of your guys' time here today. This is incredible. Guys, if not, we'll go ahead and welcome you guys. If you want to say a big thank you to these of you, give them a big round of applause. And
yeah, great job, guys. Great information.
Again, this was huge. I know Alex and I always talk about this, but I think I selfishly learned 2 or 3 good things, and I have the privilege of getting on the phone with these guys every other day. But I selfishly learned a lot. So good. I appreciate you guys.
Awesome.
No worries.
All right, deal makers, let's go get it. Thank you for your time. See you later.